Poetry Center, bringing poetry to Patterson since 1980 at Passaic County Community College.
We should thank Rosemary Johnson, who is just such a wonderful job with signing for us, and sometimes very difficult job of signing when she doesn't have the poems in front of her, and she just seems to be able to follow it and be perfectly fine. I'm very happy to introduce our next poet, who is Quincy Troupe. Quincy is, John, is this, am I? Adjust it to yourself. Okay, you'll adjust it back, right? Okay, Quincy Troupe is the former poet laureate of the state of California, and he's published 7 books of poetry. He's also the author of Miles, the autobiography, which received an American Book Award, James Baldwin, The Legacy, and the memoir, Miles and Me, a memoir of Miles Davis, which has recently come out. He edited Giant Talk, an anthology of third world writing, and is founding editor of Confrontation, a journal of third world literature, and also American Rag. Among other awards, he has received the Peabody Award for co-producing and writing the radio show, the Miles Davis Radio Project. He is Professor Emeritus at the University of California at San Diego, and he's taught at Columbia University. And are you there? I lost you for a minute. Let's welcome Quincy Troupe.
I doubt that. I'll be running to the bathroom. Yeah, I too want to I feel honored to have received one of the Patterson Poetry Prizes, and I also want to say that Maria has been a great champion of poetry for many years in Patterson, and I've come over and done a lot of readings and worked with her, and so you should feel honored that she continues to work so hard to put this center on the map and work so hard for poetry. There's not many people that work as hard as Maria Gannon. I just want to say that. I just moved back from California, to New York City from California, and so I'm getting adjusted, you know, to the snow. I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and this first poem is about my mother, who was a great woman. She'll be 87 this year, and who is really responsible for me writing and reading books and all of that, because she brought them into the house. And you'll learn a little bit about me in this poem. Mother, for Dorothy Smith Marshall. When I was growing up, she used to sit in the bathroom each and every morning smoking cool cigarettes, drinking hot coffee, reading newspapers, a hard toilet seat caressing her derriere, reading glasses in place, serious as cancer, the way her eyes devoured everything, finished old newspapers stacked up high as her waistline when she stood, proud, erect, defiant, all of 5 feet 2 inches tall in high-heeled shoes, petite. She was a pistol when she was young, eyes blazing, boring in like bullets when her temper squeezed the trigger of her ire hard. Her rage, angry scars she raised on me and my brother's backs and legs, dealt out with ironing cards that hissed through the air like whips, coiled snakes about to strike. It was her mother's influence, she used to like to say. She was scared to death of her mother, mama to me and my brother Timmy, who believed in retribution, payback, fear. To the bitter end, we watched mama slap mother around hard once or twice for some perceived transgression or indiscretion, but we loved them both deeper than fear itself. Loved mama too, because we knew we were a lot to handle. My brother and me, born to do mischief in a neighborhood full of young thieves, malcontents, murderers to be, you name it, they thrived and flourished there. The good and straight we rejected out of hand as past tense, Negro, square as blocks we played with once until we wrapped our hands around straight razors. So she cracked the whip hard, raised whelps on our backs and hardening butts, legs and arms, kept fear alive in us to keep us in line and alive. She always had books around the house. Introduced me to poetry and novels, wanted to be a school teacher. Raising me and my brother got in the way of that. And as she grew older, she left a string of glassy-eyed suitors in her wake. My father being the first who didn't make it all the way home. Where her sweet perfume trailed through the air like flowers blooming fresh in springtime, gardenias of Lady Day, sometimes jasmine or roses. It depended on her mood, but there was always something about her that kept them coming back for more. Time and again, whatever she had bewitched them. Her charm, maybe, that could be as dazzling as the smile flashing above her sensuous walk that beckoned. Her steps so light, she seemed to float through air. Marani yellow in skin tone, plum cushiony lips, splash bright red and full, smooth. She called herself a party girl, though she was always much more than this, though she was this too. With a great sense of style, dressed to kill, cock robin, could press pedal to the metal out on the dance floor. She caused heads to swivel on necks like spinning tops whenever she passed, her fragrance tantalizing nostrils trailing behind her like a sweet-smelling, invisible plume. She's in her 80s now, still sits on the toilet stool each and every morning, repeating the same ritual, only now she doesn't smoke anymore. Everybody's gone to the other side, on her side of the family. Mama, her brothers Garfield and Alan, aunts and uncles, cousins, her daddy, mine too. Men her age still sniff behind her glassy-eyed whenever she honors them, when she looks their way. Still a fashion plate, the best of her time. Her smile remains dazzling. Her skill to squeeze copper from a penny, squirrel away money. A survivor of the Depression, she is tenacious for rainy days. She's softer now, tells me she loves me every time we speak over the telephone, tells me with regret she could have done better by me, but that's hogwash because she did the best she could with what she had, and that was more than enough to get us through all the madness. She's still a pistol at 81, has all her real teeth too, she will tell you, has outlived all her suitors except this last one, Biff, who she says is slowing down at 79. She still walks with a bounce in her stride, seems to still float across and through the air, her eyes blazing, bore in on you still like bullets whenever she squeezes the trigger of her hot temper. And I love her more than I could ever imagine, love her far deeper than fear itself. I want to read two more because this is a poem I wrote for Michael Jordan. It's a villanelle, and I wrote this poem for Michael Jordan after he had beat Utah in his last game when he won his last championship. And the reason I wrote it as a villanelle was because I wanted something that was relatively short and that also had a repeating line running through it, because Michael Jordan was like a nightmare to all the basketball players he played with in the NBA. He was like a nightmare, you know, like Larry Bird once said that guarding Michael Jordan was a horrible job. It was a bad job because all you saw was his the bottom of his sneakers going past his eyeballs. You know, so it was just a rough job. Anyway, so he won this game in 41 seconds. I've only written 2 basketball poems. I used to be a basketball player, and this is one of them. 41 seconds on a Sunday in June in Salt Lake City, Utah, for Michael Jordan. Rising up in time, Michael Jordan hangs like an icon, suspended in space, cocks his right arm, fires a jump shot for two. The title game on the line, his eyes to radar screen screwed like nails into the mask of his face, bore in on the basket, gaze focused, a thing of beauty, no shadow or trace, no hint of fear. In this, his show place, his ultimate place to shine. Rising up in time, Michael Jordan hangs like an icon, suspended in space. After his move from baseline to baseline, sideline to sideline, his cold face shining, wagging his tongue, he dribbles through chaos, snaking serpentine, his eyes to radar screens screwed like nails into the mask of his face. He bolts a flash up the court, takes off, floats in for two more in this race for glory. It is his time, what he was put on earth for. He can see the headline, rising up in time. Michael Jordan hangs like an icon, suspended in space. Inside his imagination, he feels the moment he will embrace, knows his place is written here. Inside this quickening pace of nerves, he will define. His eyes to radar screens screwed like nails into the mask of his face. Inside this moment, he will rule on his own terms. Quick as a cat, he interfaces time, victory and glory as he crosses over his dribble. He is king of this shrine, rising up in time. Michael Jordan hangs like an icon, suspended in space, his eyes to radar screens screwed like nails into the mask of his face. This last poem is, I'm going to read you the first 3 pages of it, and it's a long poem. It's about 8 pages long, but I'm going to read you the first 3 pages of it, and it's called Words That Build Bridges Toward a New Tongue. And it's the last poem in a collection that I wrote titled Choruses, which goes from villanelles and sestinas and all that to kind of trying to break the mold of American language and form and all that. So it goes from form to what I call the American new forms, in a sense, which is a blend and a fusion of everything. If you look around this room, it's a fusion of all the things that were in here. All these cultures, just what you were talking about, you know. So anyway, it's called Words and Sounds That Build Bridges Towards a New Tongue. You begin with a sound wrapped around a syllable, or syllables, a word or words like razzmatazz or ratamacue. Then you listen to a red-boned black man playing a horn like a clue, like a train or John Coltrane or bird. Then you play around with sounds your ears done heard. Lift them off a rebound, spellbound inside a rule. Because of a cue, your memory remembered and knew. Now you add a few nouns and vowels, words singing like birds, flying through spring winds, thunderclapping with rolling consonants, their feathers echoing colors now, black or white or blue. As a ranky-dank fleshing fresh beneath them was immune to trailing blues, stretched out behind him, voices that flew rhythmic as cued soundtracks through the night sweet longing, choo-chooing like wailing engines, hurling down isolated tracks, way out in the dead of night's hushed music, around the voodoo, bewitching hour bats who like words bruising from a crew of Mad Hatter good old boys were circling inside a hushed cave, where a strange blend of language was fashioning itself now from cries and screams, the whooshing of beating wings, drumming pell-mell clues through the dark cinematography of a dream bordering on nightmare as it wraps itself around you now like it was a cocoon. And you find yourself there inside the cave of your head, and you are whatever it is you think you are there, brand new. You are what you believe in as truth right then, right there, when you hear sheets of sound rushing out of the bell of a saxophone. It is a stomped down cornucopia of magic spiraling out of a dream from a golden axe shaped like an elephant's trunk. The shape of need here is a question mark bewitching us with breath. Power, mystery, stealth is what new language is shaping itself into now. Inside the neon air, hip-hopping and rapping in voice rhymes of young people before us right now is what the mind's ear reminds the tongue of here. Chasing the sound of a freight train moving at full speed is a syntax, a jackety-jack of wheels rolling through the slick flow of tracks, bedazzling gears. The song of it all beguiling us with amazement, the rackety-rack of steel spinning over and down underground rails, underground or overground tracks. The sound we hear is real when we know it, coming from the terrifying mystery of a hip shaman's horn. We see the music form in the shape of the hot tongue of a big flame lighter, tonguing out gust heats, gut flames as sound as words inside the scorched flow of lava, inside a tongue that is red, white, and blue, laced with dues paid in Philadelphia, in Hamlet, North Carolina, where a language was fractured there, congealed until it hopscotched itself to its own backbeat, conundrum, before it pealed across the air, clear as a bell ringing cold on Sundays, unleashed a rage in rhythm and tempo, heated voices and sermons, became a fire there in flight, was volcanic with syllables aglow, the night flaming with embers, washing through the breeze like a tribe of fireflies, swarming in the night sky, a voice pure and guttural, a primal scream looping clues of prophecy here, blue, or sweetly singing as a slew of birds cracking across a fondued sky laced with magenta, their music heard in ringing bells as the wind tongue trills melodic, as it breezes lilting language through chiming leaves, trembling like lovers in heat time, when the air is all aglow and splendiferous with greens, yellows, and golds, bright reds of bougainvilleas, jacarandas fragrant as voices of doves cooing, sweet pink of flaring rhododendrons that burst in the shapes of trumpet bells, evoking miles, playing muted live in memory, clean as a whistle is where a poet stretches rubber sentences into bridges of music now, language reinventing itself daily out of lost and found words, constructing what it is to speak as a true American here, today, right now. Words moving through poems as magicians through parades, clowns dressed up as verbs, adverbs, adjectives surrounding nouns with bright verb, reminds the senses of sweet odor of frangipangi perfume, rhymes and rhythms intoxicating the senses, rhymes and rhythms intoxicating the senses, rhymes and rhythms intoxicating the senses.